In this episode, we talk about the Indian Space Research Organization's SpaDex Mission. We also talk about how the government declined 6 lakh fraudulent transactions and saved rupees 1800 crore. But first, we talk about the Himachal scholarship scam. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to 3 Things, the Indian Express news show. On 8th January, the CBI arrested Vishal Deep, an assistant director of the Enforcement Directorate, in connection to the Himachal Pradesh scholarship scam. Deep, who had been absconding since 22nd December, had allegedly demanded a bribe from owners of 2 private educational institutes in Himachal in return for not taking action against them in a multi-crore scam. To learn about the massive Himachal scholarship scam, how it was uncovered, and what the CBI found out, we have the Indian Express's Saurabh Parashar joining us in this segment. Saurabh, can you tell us what is the Himachal scholarship scam?
Niharika, first of all, I would like to tell you this Himachal scholarship scam. It was unearthed back in 2017 and 18. This scholarship scam was named as a scholarship scam because it was basically belongs to the scholarships which were for the students who belongs to the reserve and backward category, like SC students, OBC students, and the students who belongs to the minority communities. In year 2016, the central government had started a scholarship for these underprivileged students who were from the reserved category classes and from the minority classes. Their families were not able to bear the expenses of their studies. So in this case, under these scholarships, there are various scholarships like post-matric scholarship, pre-matric scholarship. And under these scholarships, 50% and more than 50% expenses होता है एक बच्चे का, वो state government और central government bear करती थी. Under this scam, there are around 20 education institutes. Some of these institutes were based in Himachal Pradesh, and some of the institutes which were based out of Himachal Pradesh, but they have their branches, their institutes in Himachal Pradesh. So these institutes enrolled proxy students. Like they shown fake admissions on the basis of collecting the original documents of the students. These are the students of our institutes and they are from the reserved category. They are SC students, they are OBC students. These students are minority community students. And these institutes encashed crores of rupees under the scholarships.
And Saurabh, how was the scam uncovered and how did the CBI get involved?
First of all, there is a very remote area, Lahaul Spiti Valley. Lahaul and Spiti is one of the districts out of the 12 districts in the Himachal Pradesh. So what had happened, Niharika, there were 500 students who were of the reserved category. And from the 2009 to 2012 and 13, they didn't get their scholarship. So it raised an alarm. Their family members and some kind of social activists, they started making it an issue. Some protests were held, some representations were filed before the then government senior officer. Then it all came to light that कि जो scholarships जो है वो original जो genuine students हैं उन तक पहुंच ही नहीं रही है. और जो स्कॉलरशिप का पैसा है वो जिन लोगों ने कभी एडमिशन ही नहीं लिया उनके अकाउंट्स में जा रहा है. एंड सेकंड, हाउ सीबीआई गोट इन्वॉल्व्ड इन दिस. Niharika, first FIR was registered by the Himachal Pradesh State Police itself. But when they saw the volume of the involved money, initially investigation suggests that it is the more than 80 crore and 100 crore, this scam. And for इतना high volume के scam को investigate करने के लिए, there should be, it is always preferred to give it to a central investigation agency. In this case also, then state government, BJP government, at that time Mr. Jairam Thakur was the chief minister of the state. His government decided to hand over the investigation of this case to the Central Bureau of Investigation. And in 2018, the case was transferred to the CBI, and 2019, CBI lodged an formal FIR and take over the investigation.
Right. And Saurabh, what all was uncovered by the CBI during their investigation?
So, Niharika, CBI detected hundreds and thousands of such admissions in which The documents, the photographs of the genuine students were used by these institutes. And in some of the cases, the genuine students were not even aware about it, that some scholarships are coming on their name. What these institute had did, they had opened their bank accounts on the name of their own trustees, like the name of on their own faculty members. So in case if whenever the money, the scholarship money came in the account, the students will not be aware about that the scholarship had came on their name. So this was some kind of modus operandi. And more interesting part of this case, the CBI had unearthed that there is a senior officer of the higher education department of the Himachal Pradesh. This officer, what he did, he opened his own educational institute on the name of his wife. And he facilitated so many admissions, proxy admission of the SC students, OBC students, and students of the minority communities. And this man released so many scholarships money, huge scholarship money on the name of these proxy students. So these are some of the findings which were unearthed by the CBI, and they established and they filed a charge sheet against around 105 people in the local court.
Right. So this is the case of a money-related fraud. So did the Enforcement Directorate also get involved into the case?
Niharika, whenever a scam of a large volume of money involved took place and came to the light, so ED, Enforcement Directorate, will also investigate it. And because in this case, Prevention of Money Laundering Act was also involved. And so far, ED had attached the properties of some of the suspects, some of the people who were involved in this case, amounted to be rupees 10 to 15 crore. And the ED investigation is going on.
Right. And Saurabh, can you tell us about Vishal Deep? Who is this person whose name has come up in the case?
Niharika, Vishal Deep is an assistant director with the ED. He was posted in Shimla, regional office. Vishal Deep basically is an employee of Central Services Goods and Sales and Tax who had joined the Enforcement Directorate on deputation for the 3 years in date back in 2013. So Niharika, now what are the allegations against Vishal Deep is that Vishal Deep demand money. He demanded a bribe from owner of at least 2 educational institutes which were named in the FIR by the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate. He claimed that if they paid the bribe, he will not take any legal action against them. These are merely allegations. So far, it is yet to be proved that was there any money transaction or not. But yes, indeed, CBI lodged an FIR against Vishal Deep when Vishal Deep was arrested from Mumbai, and he is still facing the charges.
Right. Now, Saurabh, from this point forward, how do we see this case proceeding?
Niharika, so far, the CBI has already filed a charge sheet in the court in this Himachal Pradesh scholarship scam. So whenever a charge sheet was filed, it means investigation agency has concluded the investigation. Now the suspects who were named in the charge sheet, they will have to be faced the court trial in the concerning court. So as far as the Enforcement Directorate is concerned, because now the case becomes complicated because one of its officer was booked for demanding the bribe from 2 of the suspects. We will have to see it, like how the Enforcement Directorate is tackling this situation. But so far, in the view of CBI has filed a charge sheet. It has completed its investigation, and this matter is now on the court trial. The trial in this case will be started within 1 or 2 months.
Right. And Saurabh, have we seen similar cases prop up before as well?
First of all, in Himachal, it is the first kind of such case, the scholarship scam. But yes, in other states also, like Punjab and Uttar Pradesh and in Haryana, similar schemes were also reported, जिनको नाम दिया गया scholarship scams का. But the volume of the cheated money was very less comparatively to the Himachal Pradesh, which were, around 200 crore.
Next, we talk about ISRO's SpaDex Mission. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, ended 2024 on a high note with the SpaDex mission, which included the launch of 2 small satellites to demonstrate docking in space.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of you to come over on this 30th of December tonight for watching this launch and reporting from Satish Dhawan Space Center. All of you have seen the majestic liftoff and the launch and the perfect injection of the SpaDex. For us, this is the 99th launch of any launch vehicle from Satish Dhawan Space Center. So that's also very important number. So we are going for the 100th launch and in the beginning of next year. In this 99th launch, the PSLV, the correlation configuration of the PSLV C60, placed 2 SpaDex satellites weighing 220 kg into a circular orbit of 475 kilometers. But not that, this mission is having a POEM-4 payload, which hosts 24 research and development payloads. They are not satellites, they are going to be attached to the stage, conducting experiments for next 2 months. The upper stage of the PSLV will act.
We just heard ISRO's former chairman, Dr. S. Somnath, talking about the launch of SpaDex that happened on 30th December. India's launch vehicle, PSLV C60, launched the 2 220 kg satellites in a 470 kilometer circular orbit. To learn more about this mission, the concept of docking, and why it is significant for India, we have the Indian Express's Anonna Dutt joining us. Anonna, to begin with, can you tell us about the SpaDex mission?
So SpaDex mission is essentially a technology demonstrator where ISRO will for the first time dock 2 satellites in space. So docking is the process of essentially bringing 2 satellites into the same orbit and then bringing them closer and finally joining them together so that they can operate as one spacecraft. This process is required for, missions which require very big payloads which cannot be carried in one launch. So they are launched separately and then joined together in space. So this one is using 2 small satellites, and just to demonstrate the technology of doing it so that we are ready for future missions.
Right. And can you tell us about the 2 constituent satellites?
So SpaDex mission has 2 satellites, the Chaser and the Target, both weighing about 220 kgs. And both were launched together on the PSLV on December 30th. They were launched into a circular orbit of around 470 kilometers. And what happened is the launch vehicle gave a slightly different velocity. The relative velocity was different for both the satellites, so they could drift away once they were launched in the orbit. Once the satellites were about 20 kilometers or so away from each other, the drift was arrested, and then the researchers started, giving instructions to bring the satellites closer together.
Right. And Anonna, can you tell us more about docking and when was the first time that docking was used?
So, as I mentioned, it is essentially for missions where the satellites are so big that you cannot carry it in one launch. You would require this technique for, say, building up a space station. So International Space Station is also built by joining different modules, and so would the space station that India envisions to create. Then if you look at the moon missions, especially the missions where the US astronauts landed on the moon, that again required different spacecrafts to come together in space. The first docking experiment actually took place in 1966 with NASA bringing together 2 satellites during its Gemini 8 mission. It was followed just a year later by docking done by the USSR. So for the NASA mission, there were actually astronauts on board who were maneuvering the spacecraft, and they went and joined with another stationary spacecraft. However, for the Russian mission, there was nobody on board. It was a completely autonomous docking. That was the first autonomous docking that has happened in the world. And there's only one other country other than US and Russia which has the capability, which is China. China did its first docking demonstration in 2011, where their Tiangong 1 space laboratory, which is the stationary one, joined with a Shenzhou 8 spacecraft. And then they demonstrated the same with astronauts a year later with the Shenzhou 9 spacecraft.
Right. And Anonna, post 30th December, after both the satellites were launched, how did things proceed?
The satellites that are supposed to dock in space, they were launched on December 30th. Yes, but January 7th, when the docking experiment was supposed to take place. So after launching in space, usually the satellite health is checked, whether all the components are working as needed. Then the, solar panels are deployed. So we were told that it would require a few days for the satellites to generate enough energy from the sun to go ahead for the docking experiment. So it was scheduled for January 7th. However, once they were in position, they looked at the data and they thought they should do some more simulations of it on ground before going ahead with the docking experiment. So it was pushed by 2 days to January 9th. Now, January 9th, while they were doing a maneuver which was to bring these spacecrafts from 500 meters from each other to 225 meters or so. So when they did this maneuver, the spacecrafts drifted more than, they had anticipated. So again, they were pulled back into their original 5-kilometer position to restart the docking. This was necessary to, keep the satellites safe and, they didn't want the satellites to crash with each other in space before the experiment could be demonstrated. Then again on Sunday, this Sunday, which is 12th of Jan, the scientists again attempted, to bring the satellites close together. And this time they succeeded in bringing the satellites just 3 meters from each other. And here again, I would like to say these satellites are moving at incredibly high speeds because they have to maintain that orbit around the Earth. So these fast-paced objects were brought just 3 meters from each other and then separated again to keep them safe. So right now, all that data that was collected during this process is being studied by ISRO, and then finally they will attempt the docking based on this data.
Right. And what makes this mission so important for India?
So this is a capability which is essential for carrying out bigger and bigger missions which ISRO has planned out, especially when our launch vehicle is not, as powerful as, what you would have in the US. So our launch vehicle is capable of lifting up to 8 tons to the low Earth orbit. And we are in the process of developing another launch vehicle which would carry around 30 tons to low Earth orbit. But that is still in the process. What the immediate impact of this docking capability would be on the Chandrayaan mission, Chandrayaan 4, which is planned to bring back samples from the moon. So it would be a mission which requires quite heavy spacecrafts, especially while coming back. They will also have a lot of these rocks and soil from the moon. So for that, the different modules would be launched separately. The first module, which will go to the moon, will have most of the components. The propulsion module will take it to the moon orbit. From the moon orbit, a lander and ascender will drop down to the lunar surface. They will do a soft landing, as was demonstrated by Chandrayaan 3. Then they will collect the samples with a robotic arm, place it in these containers which are designed like they're vacuum sealed containers. The samples will be collected and then the ascender module will hop off from the moon and go back to the moon orbit and join the transfer module that is waiting there. The transfer module will then carry all of these samples back to the Earth orbit where there would be a re-entry module waiting for it. So it will dock with the re-entry module there and then enter the Earth's atmosphere.
Really important mission for us because, with the space sector reforms and the expansion of the space activities in the Amrit Kal, we have a program of expanded human spaceflight program, building space station, etc. And this mission is so critical for us to work on future mission like Chandrayaan 4, building space stations and missions to moon as well. So I believe this is.
We just heard former ISRO chairman Dr. S. Somnath talk about the importance of this mission. So, Anonna, along with Chandrayaan 4, what other future projects will this mission impact?
The impact will also be there for India's vision of setting up a space station by 2035. The planned Bharatiya Antariksh Station is supposed to have 5 modules, which will likely be launched separately. The first module is scheduled to be launched in 2028. So the first module would have just robotic components, but slowly it would also have, of course, humans in space, and it would do, microgravity experiments in these modules. So for all of that, not only do we need heavier launch vehicles, we would need these different modules to come together and dock. So this is the experiment where we will demonstrate that capability. And of course, for taking humans to moon, which is the vision for 2040, again, we would require very heavy spacecrafts, which would have to probably dock with different components on its way to the moon.
And in the end, we talk about an online suspect registry developed by the I4C. In September 2024, Union Home Minister Amit Shah launched the online suspect registry developed by the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, I4C. The registry contains data of 1.4 million cybercriminals linked to financial fraud and various cyber crimes. The Indian Express's Mahinder Singh Manral reported that a source in the Ministry of Home Affairs said that in almost 3 months since the launch of the online suspect registry, the centre has declined 6 lakh fraudulent transactions and saved rupees 1,800 crore. An official said, quote, "To enhance the fraud risk management capabilities of the country's financial system, they are now using data from the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. The registry makes it possible to identify cybercriminals as potential threats." Unquote. Manral wrote, a source in the MHA said that with the help of the suspect registry, around 6.10 lakh fraudulent transactions were declined, which has resulted in saving around rupees 1,800 crore until 1st December. The Cyber Fraud Mitigation Center was also launched in September, where representatives from leading banks and other financial institutions of the country, all 4 telecom service providers, and law enforcement agencies of states and union territories are working together for immediate action and seamless cooperation to tackle online financial crimes. The source further added that until 1st December, around 8.67 lakh mule accounts were frozen by various banks and financial intermediaries, 7 lakh SIM cards and 1.4 lakh mobiles were blocked. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.